Last year, the head of the Professional and Technical Communications Department, Professor Pat Munday, fulfilled a goal almost 3 decades in the making. He was given a chance to teach a pair of graduate courses in China at Southwest University in Chongqing. I sat down with him and asked about his experience teaching American culture and history to China's newest intellectuals and how the Chinese culture affected him.
I thought going to China, I would be constantly crowded, jostled, with by crowds on the street. I thought that people would be very kind of homogeneous group, all wearing very similar clothes. I thought that as an American, I might encounter some hostility, right? America, this is after America had unjustly declared war on Iraq, did a lot of other things that a very pacifist, peaceful nation like China did not look fondly on. So I expected some, not necessarily personal hostility, but certainly coldness or criticism. None of that proved to be true. That at least in the areas that I was in South China, even on the busiest day in the marketplace, and it was kind of crowded, like being on a New York City street, but people are so kind of polite. Chinese people like to run into somebody else on a bicycle, another Chinese person, and they both laugh and they usually shake hands and go on. So Chinese people are, in general, very generous and friendly with each other. And when it came to being an American guest in China, I was overwhelmed at the daily acts of kindness and generosity toward me as a foreigner.
Well, the first thing that, like a young Chinese family, if they're interested in buying an apartment, like buying a house, they say, but buying an apartment in China, the first question they will ask of the neighbors or of the realtor, is it noisy here? And if they're said, oh no, this is a very quiet place, they're said, oh, we're not interested, right? Chinese like noise, they like activity, and they like the hubbub, right, of big cities. For the deep lessons that my students taught me, a couple of things. First of all, how diverse a country China is. That as kind of a meta-narrative, I thought of China as this relatively kind of uniform place, a city in the south central area, even though a city of more than 30 million people, would be very much like Beijing or Shanghai or Guangzhou or any other big city. Totally not true. That regionalism is alive and well in China. And that's true when it comes to food, when it comes to other elements of culture, even how people speak and their manners and how they dress, and even to their sort of moral behavior. The kind of moral behavior that people practice in a city like Beijing or Shanghai would be really scorned in South China. South China people are very well behaved. American scholars tend to always portray China as like just on the verge of becoming a democracy or just on the verge of becoming more like the United States. And American scholars have been writing about China that way since at least the early 1900s. And we got to give that idea up. China is its own nation, and in China there is nothing at all contradictory between communist political rule on the one hand and a thriving economy on the other hand, right? Modernization theory in America always says, oh, democracy and technology, industrial development go hand in hand, right? So we made that mistake in Iraq too, right? Oh, we can just go in, level Iraq, and we can create democracy and technology overnight. So that was a big lesson in appreciating the very unique path that China is on, and the Chinese for certain don't know where that path is going to lead them. And for us to presume as Americans that path should go a certain place, or that we think it's going to go a certain place, is incredibly kind of self-centered and culturally arrogant. Yeah, on our part. Not that we're arrogant toward individual Chinese, but it's arrogant of us to presume that we know what another nation should or will do.